Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Garrett Horner. This is stage 15 of the Vuelta a España, brought to you by Lupine Lights. Lupine Lights, the finest lights I've ridden throughout my career, with the ability to adjust each of your lamp settings with the app on your phone, and of course, Bluetooth technology. Throw in the ability to always be able to see how much battery life you got left on your battery. You know you'll have plenty of light to make it home on each of your rides. Bright your streets, bright your trails, use Lupine Lights. Make sure you use the code LupineLights24 if you want to save 24% on your next order, and that expires at the end of the Vuelta a España on September 9th. Now, today's Vuelta a España Stage 15 is going to be a magnificent one. There's so much action that's going to happen throughout today's stage that I can't cover it all. The stage is 140 plus kilometers, about 90 miles in length, and you got to watch all of it because they got 4 categories of climbs. But the Category 1 is the same the first time and the third time, and it's monster steep as a Category 1, switchbacks, narrow technical. But of course, it's the summit finish at 19 kilometers, 7% average. But the last 3 kilometers, well, those are about 15%. It's a steep sucker going all the way up the last 3 kilometers, so it's going to be a magnificent stage. And because it's a short stage, that means at 90 miles that all the professional riders have that kind of power in their legs to just be blowing energy all over the place. So that's why when the action starts right away after kilometer 0, when we see attacks from Pseudo Quickstep up there, from Asgreen throwing in massive attacks, and we see Jay Vine get into the break up the road with Pablo Castrillo up there from Kern Pharma. Remember, he won a stage here at the Vuelta a España already. You know, with this 7-8 rider group up here and the peloton's going full gas, that it's going to be action-packed throughout the stage. We hit the first Category 1, the first climb here on stage 15, and it's blowing up to pieces. The peloton's got bodies spread out all over the place with attacks happening left, right, and center all the way up this climb. We're going to see Pseudo Quickstep finally get on the front because there's a large breakaway still up the road where Jay Vine's in there, UAE Team Emirates, and Pablo Castrillo's in this front group going over the top of the KOM with Jay Vine grabbing maximum points. They got a small gap as Pseudo Quickstep's on the front of the peloton. Once they come down the descent with about 95 kilometers to go, everything's wrapped back up, and I did that no justice. That's first 45 kilometers because everybody in their legs right now is going to feel how much effort they put into the pedals as the peloton grows again in size. But guys, I can bring you back where the peloton had 15 riders in it, all GC favorites. It was a destruction through the first 45 kilometers of this stage, and then once everyone's brought back together, it doesn't stay that way for very long because we're going to start seeing attacks again, and we start seeing the Solarism going up the road. He's in a group of about 8 riders, but UAE Team Emirates are not done attacking, and neither is Bora Hansgrohe. Bora Hansgrohe has been attacked left and right, but now it's Vlasov going up the road with Sivakov from UAE Team Emirates. They're going to get some more company, and everything's going to come together with about 20 riders in the breakaway up front. 3 UAE Team Emirates riders are represented up there. Soler's up there. He's going to start riding the front. Jay Vine is up there. He's been doing a ton of work. I already told you, got the KOM on the first passage of that Category 1. And Sivakov's there, and he's a threat on the general classification at about 6.5 minutes back from the time of Ben O'Connor from AG2R. But AG2R's got 2 riders represented up here too, because Valentin Parapentre and Bruno Armai's in this front group. Bora Hansgrohe, they didn't get left out. They got riders up here because I told you already it was Vlasov, but Danny Martinez made it when he bridged across kind of late in the group. With that 20-rider group going up the next category climb, we're going to see some more company after they go over the top where Jay Vine gets maximum points. Then they drop down the descent. Riley Sheehan there, he drops off the back from Israel Premier Tech. He picks up the rider George Bennett, their GC favorite here. He brings him back up to the group. Now we're talking 20 plus riders. I'll call it 23 at this moment. And when we look at the back of the peloton, who's the knuckleheads chasing? Pseudo Quickstep's on the front. They're riding again on the front because Bora Hansgrohe is represented in the front group, because AG2R is represented in the front group, and because UAE Team Emirates are represented in the front group. But they don't realize that Primož Roglič wants to win the general classification here. Now, if they're riding for a top podium on the general classification, this is a brilliant move. If they're riding because they think Primož Roglič may crash his bike at any moment in the Vuelta a España, this is a brilliant move because they can get up possibly second on the general classification, because third all the way back is really tight on the GC starting this stage 15. But but Cuitu Quickstep don't need to ride the front because Bora Hansgrohe have to. You're like, Chris, Bora Hansgrohe has not one but two riders in that front group. You just told me that. Yes, I did. But Vlasov is not the highest on the general classification. George Bennett is at 6.5 minutes, and then just a few seconds behind him is going to be Sivakov. With those two riders both in front of the time there of Vlasov, Bora Hansgrohe have to chase. Remember, they're only sitting second on the general classification. They still have to make up time on Ben O'Connor if they want the race leader's red jersey. Instead, they're sitting back because Cuitu Quickstep's going to ride the front, and they got their whole team up there just throwing down as hard as they can. We come into the third category climb right now. Solaire's on the front of the peloton when it started proper, but he pulls off hard to the left, and he's basically stopped on the side of the road. There's he's spinning his front tires. There's something wrong with it? We don't know, and the cameras don't care. As they go up to the front of the breakaway now, we're going to see some action because Jay Vine's on the front, and he's throwing down on the pedals because he knows Cuitu Quickstep's chasing for a podium position here on stage 15 of the Vuelta a España. With Jay Vine's efforts on the front, we start seeing guys coming out the back all over the place as it's Valentin Perepinte getting dropped. Jack Haig's coming out the back. George Bennett's getting dropped. He's got some company with him, but Israel Premier Tech rider's not going to move up much on the general classification as he's coming out the back from the pace up there of Jay Vine. Now, Jay Vine's got it stretched to about 7 riders, but Stefan Kuhn's really struggling on the back for FDJ. He's got a teammate just in front of him. That's Quentin Pacher. So as the group goes over the top with Jay Vine on the front, he's got it down to 6 riders, but once they come down the descent, Stefan Kuhn's going to latch back on. We got 7 in the front as Sivakov's taking over at the front for the descent. I can only assume this because Jay Vine's maybe not as fast going through the corners after a few crashes, hard crashes this season in 2024. So Sivakov's relieving Jay Vine on the front, blitzing through this crazy technical corner with lefts, rights, and obstacles all over the place. Sivakov's taking the front. They're still holding time on the Cuitu Quickstep train behind that went over the top of the KOM at about 2.5 minutes. Now we get through the valley. This gets interesting. It's time for UAE team member. It's Sivakov to hop off the front. He helped out on the descent slightly through the early parts of the valley, but now we see Jay Vine's got to do the work all the way into the last 19 kilometers to go here on stage 15. We look at the peloton. Cuitu Quickstep still have not figured out that Bora Hansgrohe's not a threat to win the general classification in this front group, and so they're still riding the front. With Cuitu Quickstep riding the front, that means Bora Hansgrohe and Ben O'Connor's AG2R team getting a free ride here on stage 15. Free. It's been full gas all day long. I've done it no justice. Now we're coming into 23 kilometers to go. I'll back it up just a hair as we see Movistar hop on the front. Once they get on the front, they're helping out now because they want to do damage control to the group up front. Maybe give Moss a shot at winning this stage. I don't mind if you're going to ride from 23 into 19 kilometers to go of the last final climb. This isn't such a knucklehead move. They shouldn't be on the front because you want Bora Hansgrohe to get on the front. So they're almost a knucklehead, but not quite. With the help there at the front with Movistar riding, if we take you back just a little bit, it was Bora Hansgrohe doing a nature break on the right side of the peloton, Primož Roglič. Then all of a sudden the cameras pick up Primož Roglič on the right side of the road. He's changing bikes. What's he doing? Does he have a mechanical? No, he doesn't have a mechanical, guys. He just wants to change to his climbing bike, and once he gets on his climbing bike, he's got a teammate waiting for him there. That's Roger. As Roger's pacing him up, Primož Roglič is on the bumper of his team car. Now his second team car or his first team car comes by him. He hops off that car. Now he's got Danny Martinez back there who got dropped out of that front group on the pace with Jay Vine just blitzing it going up that category 1 climb, the third climb on today's stage 15. So with Danny Martinez back there, Primož Roglič has not one but 2 teammates, and he's still using the caravan cars left and right to get to the back of the peloton. He reaches the back of the peloton after about 3 kilometers of work back there. He's on the back. Then he takes another kilometer to get back up to the front position of the peloton because the peloton was pretty large in size. We'll call it about 70 riders, single filed out all the way from the pace of Movistar and Cuitu Quickstep at the front. When I take you back to his bike change, I don't know what he was thinking. I've ridden 2x. I won on the Angleroo. That's what this jersey right back here is. And I did it on 2x no problem and never ran out of gears. Why Primož Roglič took the time to change, I have no idea. But now he's back up at the front of the peloton, back in position around his Bora Hansgrohe teammate. But we're coming into just about 19 kilometers to go. So we're talking 4 kilometers for Primož Roglič to go back there and change bikes, draft off of the team car, get to the back of the peloton, put his teammates on the front to drive along the side of the peloton to get him back at the front, only to come into the beginning of this last, final, most difficult climb of the 24 Vuelta a España there has been so far up to date. This is going to be the hardest climb. There's no doubt about it. And if you remember right on the butterfly effect, I told you guys this was the stage that Primož Roglič could take the race leader's red jersey away from Ben O'Connor. But when I started looking at all these tactics, I started thinking Primož Roglič better have some good legs after you wasted 4 kilometers before the hardest climb of the Vuelta a España starts proper. And instead of feeding, drinking, resting, relaxing your legs, you've been back there chasing the whole time. Okay, he was on the bumper of the car for some of it. Let's not say he was chasing for all of it. But now he's in the right position. The climb's getting ready to start proper. We look up front. Jay Vine done a magnificent job here on stage 15. Tip of the hat. The amount of power you've put to the pedals has been absolutely astounding. Now he pulls off with 19 kilometers to go. What's next? 6 riders are left in the front group, and Sivakov has to go to work. Well, I'm sitting on the Chesterfield. I'm thinking, Sivakov, this is not the time to play around tactically. You got to get to work right away. It cannot turn into a tactical game. Everybody sitting on your wheel understands that it's your job to go to work right now. So Sivakov does just exactly that. And then we see him get on the radio and start chatting with his team. Then we see that it's Vlasov. Bora Hansgrohe pulls out of second, third position, goes over and talks to his car. I don't know who needs to talk to their car at this point in time. And Vlasov's probably thinking the same thing because he's just shaking his head no to the director. And then he slots back into the right position there so he can get a draft before the hardest climb here, the Vuelta a España, really starts proper. And right now it's already started, but it's going to get harder because this is just the 5-6% sections with Sivakov on the front. Now he started this climb with about a 3-minute gap on the Cuitu Quick-Step train that's being led behind. But Movistar helped a little bit until they blew. Cuitu Quick-Step's on the front doing a fantastic job for Landa to get a podium position here at the Vuelta a España, if that's what you're trying for anyways. But you're pulling Primož Roglič, the #1 rider in this Vuelta a España, hands down the favorite here, who everyone would have told you after yesterday's stage 14 could take red today. Well, Cuitu Quick-Step's still on the front driving it. As we see Sivakov still driving on the front of the breakaway, we start seeing riders drop early. It's Bruno Armai is the first rider from AG2R that's drop out of this group of 6. Next to come, Stefan Kuhn. FDJ's coming out. He's going to have some company from his teammate because Quentin Pacheur's coming out quickly after Stefan Kuhn. Now we got 3 riders in the front. Sivakov still riding there. Vlasov, Bora Hansgrohe's second wheel fabulously, and third's going to be Pablo Castrillo. Remember, he won a stage here for Kern Farmer earlier at the Vuelta a España, but he's not a climber, guys. Come on. He's swinging on the back. He's heads bobbing left and right. He's got the ugly face showing up all the time, but he's still in the front group of 3, and 2 of the best riders in the world are sitting in front of him. We go back and look at the peloton. We're coming into about 15 kilometers to go. Billy Lesurf done a fantastic job for riding for his team there. Cuitu Quick-Step on the front. He got dropped earlier, went to the back of the group while it was Van Savenau, his teammate, riding the front. Then he found his way back to the front, did some more pulling for Van Savenau. Both of them blew. We're coming into 9 kilometers to go. And guess who's on the front? It's my old teammate Cattaneo on the front. He's the last rider left for Cuitu Quick-Step. With the speed of Cattaneo, the group's shrinking in size. We're talking about 15, 20 riders left as everyone's starting to struggle from the speed of Cattaneo at the front. Landa's sitting second wheel. Ben O'Connor in the race leader's red jersey sitting solid. We see Primož Roglič there. Carapaz is there. Enric Mas is there. Sepp Kuss is still in the fight. And Carlos Rodriguez is there. We go back up and look at the front 3 riders that are still left. Sivakov still riding the front. We're coming into about 5 kilometers to go. Things are going to get interesting for the GC battle because this is the time when Matteo Cattaneo finishes work after 4 kilometers of pulling. He pulls off hard to the left. Mikel Landa throws in attack. Now he starts swerving left and right. I mean, he's going left, right. Then we see him on the right side. Primož Roglič is all the way on the left. And what does Landa do then? He moves back over to the left so that Primož Roglič can get a better draft and then keeps attacking and then starts swerving some more. He does some solid work on the front, but he can't get rid of the favorites here. He did shrink it in size. He's got the number down to about 8 riders in the front. But then Mikel Landa finally realizes what I've been telling you guys since the beginning of this video, the butterfly effect. It's Primož Roglic's job to win the Vuelta a España here on stage 15. So Mikel Landa's done on the front. Primož Roglič doesn't want to get onto the front, so he sits up, and if I back the film up just a hair while Landa was on the front, Lipovic was suffering on the back getting gapped, but now Primož Roglič is getting a drink from his bottle. Lipovic comes back to the front, and he starts taking over work for Primož Roglič. Okay. Now there's some clarity in the world again. Bora Hansgrohe's finally on the front. The knucklehead pseudo quick-step, they just did all the work for Bora Hansgrohe to begin with, just to come to this exact moment right here under 5 kilometers to go, where Bora Hansgrohe's doing exactly what I told you they'd do. They have to ride. They should have been riding from the beginning, but now we're under 5 kilometers to go. Lipovic is on the front. Primož Roglič is sitting second. Why are they riding now? Because they want to win the Vuelta a España, and Ben O'Connor in the race leader's red jersey still in this group. So everything we've seen Pseudo Quickstep do and Movistar before this 5 kilometer mark here is because they're all knuckleheads. Now Lipovic is on the front. He's starting to drive it. The group's down to about 6 to 8 riders. It's kind of breaking up a little bit. Then coming back when we see Eddie Dunbar and Yates get back on, we'll call it 8 guys. We go up to the front of the 3 riders where Sivakov's been doing magnificent work. Steady, hard tempo the whole time. But we're coming into 3 kilometers and Pablo Castrillo's throwing in an attack. This is a made-for-TV attack is what I'm thinking when I'm sitting on the Chesterfield. There's no way he can make it. Pablo Castrillo is not a pure climber. He's 74 kilos. This is a big boy. He's throwing in an attack, but he already won a mountain stage here at the Vuelta a España. As he's throwing in an attack, to his amazement and disbelief, I'm sure, as what I'm thinking anyways, he's got a gap on the 2 riders behind him, and they're both climbers. Sivakov's riding the front. Vlasov's still sitting second behind Sivakov and won't help out the UAE Team Emirates rider. So Pablo's lead, Kern Farmer, just keeps extending. As we start getting up into the fog, things start getting interesting. We go back and look at what's happening to the general classification hopefuls there. Well, Lipovic has disintegrated the field and started his own acceleration with Primož Roglič on his wheel and Ben O'Connor. We look further back. It's Carapaz has opened up the gap. Okay, he probably didn't open up the gap, but that's the first rider back there after the gap's open. Moss is still back with him. You see Skilmos is back with him. But Ben O'Connor now is starting to hurt, and then he starts gapping off of the back wheel of Primož Roglič from the pace of Lipovic. How Lipovic is doing it, I have no idea. He was coming out the back earlier from Mikel Landa, but now he's blown the whole GC favorites up, and Primož Roglič is sitting in the armchair position here with just 2 kilometers to go. Now we go into 1.9 kilometers to go. Primož Roglič knows he needs to put some time into Ben O'Connor, so he throws in his acceleration, and Primož Roglič is going solo here on stage 15. We go up and find the breakaway now as the cameras go back forward. It's Pablo Castrillo still got a lead, but now Vlasov is throwing in attack back there. Sivakov can't close the gap. Vlasov is struggling to close the gap up to Pablo. Pablo is looking back over his shoulder left and right. Vlasov's getting closer, so we're coming into 1K to go. We get into 950, 900 meters to go. We see Vlasov has made it onto the back wheel there, Pablo, but Pablo's still riding the front. We get into 700 meters to go. Pablo Castrillo throws in another acceleration. Vlasov is holding onto his wheel big time. Then the cameras go down and find Primož Roglič. As the action in the front was getting hot and heavy, Primož Roglič is getting even hotter back there because Moss has found his way back up to Primož Roglič. These two are back together, but Moss is taking over the front, and then Moss starts putting in a gap there on Primož Roglič. Cameras go back up front. It's 600 meters to go. Pablo throws in his attack for the second time here on Vlasov with under 900 meters to go, but now it's 600. Can he hold off Vlasov? Well, he's got a gap on Vlasov. It's just about a bike. Then he starts extending as we get deeper into the fog. Vlasov is hurting left and right. We come into 175 meters to go. Vlasov is swinging. It's hitting 18% sections. Come into 75 meters to go. Pablo Castrillo is going to win today's stage 15, but it's 24% still. We get up to the top of the climb here. We see Pablo Castrillo sit up, kiss the finger, raise one finger in the air, and then let out a roar as he wins his second stage victory here at the 24 Vuelta a España. Second on the stage, about 15 seconds back. That's going to be Vlasov from Bora Hansgrohe, who won't win today's stage 15, but he'll get second. Third on the stage is going to be Sivakov back there to round out the podium. Now what's happening? Well, we go back and find the GC battle. Moss has got a gap that's extending a little bit on Primož Roglič, but we're coming into 75 meters to go now. Primož Roglič has found the back wheel at about 25 5 there of Moss. Moss will cross the line for 4th on today's stage. Primož Roglič to get 5th. Now, what's happening to the race leader's red jersey, Ben O'Connor? Well, if I take you further back and rewind the film just a little bit, Ben O'Connor, after he lost the wheel there of Primož Roglič, got caught from the group behind that had Mikel Landa. It had Skilmos in that group. Sepp Kuss was in that group. Carapaz was in that group. But now they've all dropped Ben O'Connor as he's coming across the line for 11th on the stage. But he'll hold on to the race leader's jersey, only losing 1:42 to the time there of Pablo, the race winner. But more importantly, 38 seconds to Primož Roglič, who finished 5th on today's stage. So he was 121 up when the stage started. He loses 38 when he crosses the line, is what everyone thought. But hold on, just wait a second here. Primož Roglič gets penalized for drafting off of the bumper of his car after he switched to his 1x bike, loses 20 more seconds. So when it's all said and done, Ben O'Connor has about a minute time gap, still holding the race leader's red jersey when stage 15 is all said and done. Now in the interview with Ben O'Connor, he says he's going to enjoy tomorrow's rest day, and then he's going to think about Tuesday when he gets there. Congratulations, Ben O'Connor. You saved the race leader's red jersey. Bora Hansgrohe, you guys were knuckleheads. You used the same tactics today as you did on stage 6. Now, if you're sitting at home and you're like, well, Chris, they had 2 riders in the front group. Well, when you see that front group, they weren't a threat on the general classification. When Primož Roglič broke away with under 2 kilometers to go, and Vlasov is still racing up there for the stage victory, instead of thinking, what can we do for the race leader's red jersey, they're knuckleheads. When they let the big break go up the road, when they let Danny Martinez in that front big break and Vlasov in that front break, they're losing numbers. When they stop to change your bike, if I take you to the interview afterwards from Primož Roglič, he said his legs weren't really good at the beginning of the final climb in today's race. I wonder why. You switched bikes at 23 kilometers to go. You chased for 4 kilometers before the biggest, hardest climb here, the Vuelta a España. Of course, your legs weren't good at the beginning because you had 1x. When you have 1x and the speeds are really fast at the beginning of the climb from Soudal Quickstep and Movistar's pace up there, you can't find the right RPMs that you've been used to using throughout the whole Vuelta a España until you switch to a different bike. So of course your legs were bad. Now when you get on the steepest part of the climb where you brought back time on Moss, that was probably because you had a 1x. So it might have helped you out in the last 1K of today's stage, but it hurt your legs at the important moments, and you could have easily have gotten through a 24% section with 2x. How do I know? How do I know that's fact? Because I did it on the Angliru in 2013 and won the Vuelta a España there. So I know it can be done. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys for the next edition real soon.